Hello everybody. Each week we send at Student Government Association an email out to you with an embedded video updating you about something important on campus, an exciting club event, or something that you should know about academics. But this week we're going to do something a little bit different. Rather than sending you just a minute and a half video, we're sending you a longer video. This is hopefully the first of many undergraduate State of the University addresses. In this address, I'll be talking about what Student Government Association has been doing thus far this year for you, the students of the University of Vermont, but also what we've been hearing from students as priorities. Then we'll be illustrating what is going on next semester in terms of priorities. So welcome to the first annual Undergraduate State of the University address. To begin with an update on the Student Government Association, as you know, you may know, we have 7 committees. The Committee on Finance, the Committee on Public Relations, the Committee on Student Activities, the Committee on Legislative Action, the Academic Affairs Committee, the Student Action Committee, and the Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Environmental Ethics. In turn, each of these committees will be explained, and what they've been doing this year will also be explained. But first, this year, I wanted to talk about the executive priorities. When I was elected in the spring, I identified 4 areas of university that needed improvement for undergraduate students. Those areas were academic advising. We all may have had good or bad experiences with advising, but everything, career services, getting ready to graduate, just knowing what classes to take, is a pretty tough business. And faculty already have a lot to do. So we need to work together to figure out how we can support faculty, but also make sure that you as students are graduating on time and getting the necessary advising. That's priority number 1 from my office. The second priority is career services and career preparation development. Whether or not you've ever interacted with the Career Services Office, there's a feeling that career services could be better integrated into the university curriculum. Should it be a part of your department's curriculum? Should you take a class on it? Or should you be worrying about career services and what you're going to be doing after graduation, whether it be grad school or entering right into the workforce right when you're in school? Many of those questions are coming out right now, and the only way that the University of Vermont will be competitive and to be able to serve the University of Vermont students is to be able to offer good career services development and preparation for you. The third priority from my office this year has been diversity enhancement. We all take the diversity requirements, the non-European cultures requirement, and the race and racism in the U.S. But recently, there have been many questions on whether or not those courses are effective. Whether or not by checking off a simple box, by taking a course, you've learned how to associate with other people, to talk about other people, with other people of different cultures or backgrounds. We, the Student Government Association, don't necessarily see diversity as something that you can tackle by simply saying, yep, I took the course. We know now. Knowing about diversity, learning about other people's cultures, is about a multiplicity and a difference of backgrounds and perspectives, not necessarily people's skin colors or their histories. The fourth priority for my office this semester has been community relations. About half of the student body lives off campus, but even if you live on campus, you often go downtown, you go to parties, you go to Church Street. It's a great city. But we have to understand that we share that city with many other people. And recently, the city of Burlington has become rather wary of the University of Vermont's presence. Whether that be loud walk-by noise when late at night on a weekend, or just simply neighborly relations between students and non-student families. That's been something that we've been working on this year, and I'll be elucidating a little bit more when I update you on the Committee on Legislative Action, whose responsibility is for community, state, and federal relations from a student perspective. To this end, in years past, the Student Government Association has been historically divided between the Senate operations of those committees and the President and Vice President's office. While we necessarily don't have conflicting priorities, there are certain things that we want to see done as President or Vice President, and we don't want to tax the Senate. And we want the Senate to be able to have as much creative capacity as possible. That's why I'm actively creating what we'll be calling the President's Cabinet. This cabinet will have several positions appointed. They will not be elected, and they will not be a formal part of the Student Government Association. But these cabinet positions, these principal secretaries for advising, career services, community relations, for first-year enhancement, their sole job will be to work for students, without the fetters of committees or without taking any energy or time from the Student Government Association, Senate, so we can work for you and make sure that those priorities will be kept on and will be provided for the rest of the year. Tentatively, these will not be positions that will last after my term, but we will see how productive they are. We're actively searching for people, so if you're interested, information will be at the bottom of this email to how to get involved with SGA, but more particularly how to get involved in the cabinet. Moving now to the update on the SGA, like I said, we have 7 committees. The Finance Committee, the first, is perhaps one of the more important committees that we have. They handle all the money and the interaction between the clubs, over 170 clubs that we have that request money from the students because the SGA is funded from the student activities fee. They provide the interaction between the student clubs and our treasury. We need to be able to make sure that clubs, the amazing clubs that we have here on campus, have the right resources to provide as many activities and programs for you as students as we can. But that's a really tough job. So they've been busy this year doing that, working with supplemental hearings for clubs, and they're now beginning the process of budgeting for clubs next year. Next will be Public Relations. The Public Relations Committee is really the committee that interacts between the students of the University of Vermont and the Student Government Association. They're the ones who send out this video. They're the ones who send out my email every week, and they'll be the ones updating the posters, the surveys that you see. So when you see something from the Student Government Association, that's coming from the PR committee. And we have a big deal coming up in the spring semester. When you return in January, we'll have a whole new program of how to interact with the Student Government Association. That used to be called the Ticks Me Off. It was a simple program where you email us and you may or may not get a response. No more. The UVM voice will be a culmination of different things. It will be conversations that we'll be having. It'll be surveys. It'll be information gathering. But more importantly, it'll be a new tool for students to use so you can actually text us wherever you are on campus any concern. That text will then be converted into an email, and we can look at it and spread it to our committees and determine how we're going to tackle a student concern. Everything from cigarette butts on the lawn to academic advising. If you had a bad experience with a faculty member, you'll be able to text us or email us, and we'll be able to respond back to say what we're doing for you. Next will be the Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Environmental Ethics. The University of Vermont has a great impetus and emphasis on diversity, equity, and the environment. The environment is part of our university's vision to become a premier small research university specializing in public policy, the environment, healthcare, and several other fields. But this committee has been really busy this year, working on several things. The first is the tobacco ban. This was a campus-wide tobacco ban initiative was proposed last year by the University Benefits Advisory Council. It's a committee composed of faculty, administration, staff, and even students. And as they were reviewing the university's policy around insurance and having a healthy campus, one of the things that they'll be proposing, or that they did propose, was that a tobacco-free campus. Now, the Student Government Association is not taking a certain position on this until we gain your perspective. We want to know what students think about it. You may say, sitting at home, we don't want that. We don't want a tobacco ban on campus. We want the right to be able to smoke. But a surprising number of you have said, yes, it's difficult to go to the library. It's difficult to walk around campus when we have asthma or we don't like smoke, and have people smoking and not caring about other people. Now, those are two arguments that we'll be engaged in this year, but we're not going to do anything. We won't be making a recommendation to President Sullivan or any of the administration or the University Benefits Advisory Council until we have your opinion. Early in the spring, look forward to a survey coming from our office, the Student Government Association, about whether or not you want a tobacco ban on campus and what you think it should look like. That may simply be, your perspective may simply be, well, the policy needs to be enforced now. It's a 25-foot rule anywhere from a University of Vermont building, entrance. Now, we've asked, well, why isn't the policy being enforced? And the official position of the university is that students have to enforce it. Students, faculty, and staff. It is not the university's responsibility. We think that's wrong. We don't want police walking around giving citations to students, but if you're going to have a policy, you need to enforce it. So those are just some of the conversations we'll be having moving ahead in the spring, and I think that's going to be the most important thing we'll be working on. In addition, the Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Environmental Ethics are actively planning for a Mental Health Awareness Month coming in the spring and Earth Day celebrations to emphasize that environmental stewardship that the University of Vermont supports so much. Next is action. The Student Action Committee does not have any set responsibilities. They're really the ones who work for you, the students. They gauge what students want and then act on it. So far this year, they've gotten a microwave in the marketplace, so you can bring your food to campus and enjoy it in the Davis Center without having to buy anything at the marketplace or anywhere else. You're able now to have a hot meal because of that committee. In addition, they've been working actively on the Living and Learning mural update. You may have remembered seeing an email from me earlier in the year about which proposals you think should be on the docket for the Living and Learning new mural. Now, the new mural is something that was a very controversial topic. We didn't know if students wanted it updated, if just touched up, or if they wanted an entirely new mural. The Living and Learning Center actually decided that themselves. They said they wanted a new mural that exemplified the University of Vermont's role in the world. And so last spring we sent out an update. We sent out a response to that saying, students, what do you want? What are the proposals? What are the themes that you want? And the theme that won was Vermont and local. University of Vermont students, faculty, staff put together proposals, and they were able to suggest themes predicated on Vermont and local. And the winner of that, the proposal that won that, and that will soon be on the mural, the new mural for the Living and Learning building, will be released shortly before Thanksgiving, so keep an eye out for that. The University of Vermont students, you were the ones who voted on what you wanted to see there. Next, education about the bottled water ban. The bottled water ban on campus in an environmental initiative was championed by both a UVM club, VSTEP, and the Student Government Association several years ago. It'll go into effect June 2013, that'll be next year. And that means that no bottled water will be sold on campus. This is a great way to reduce recycled waste, to reduce plastic waste, but also raise awareness about recycling on campus. We'll be doing our part by handing out water bottles early next semester, so keep an eye out for that. In addition, this year, if you live on campus, you may have noticed that the High Point plan went up almost $300, and the actual amount of points did not. Our Student Action Committee is actively searching why that happened, and they'll be in conversations with Sodexo later this week, trying to figure that out. But at the same time, we're also in conversations with Sodexo around the establishment of a new meal plan that'll include 150 blocks and I believe around 900 to 1,000 points to have a balanced meal plan, not just a little bit of blocks and a lot of points or the other way around, but we'll have a balanced meal plan, and that's something that they're actively working on. The Committee on Legislative Action, although its name is a little bit deceptive, works most with the University of Vermont community, with the Burlington community, with those neighborhood relations, and with relations with the state. We work closely with the Office of Student Community Relations to identify problem neighborhoods, neighborhoods that probably you off-campus students live in mostly. They've also been actively working on Veterans Day celebration, and last Monday they hosted, along with the Veterans Collaborative Organization and Fraternity Sorority Life, a great celebration in the Memorial Lounge. So keep your eye out for more about that as we move forward. In addition, the off-campus living workshops, co-sponsored by Student Government Association and the Office of Student Community Relations, has been a great way for students just getting ready to move off campus to learn about the resources and everything that you can use to live off campus, and you can get a preferred renter's card. They will also be getting ready in January and February for their annual State House visit, so they can go and lobby for the same level funding that we get from the state of Vermont. They'll be able to go and add a student perspective to that process. In addition, the Student Activities Committee, who keeps all the clubs, our 170 clubs, following policy, and the Academic Affairs Committee have been very, very busy this year. Although the Student Activities Committee is pretty structured with reaching out to student clubs, making sure you have as many resources as possible, the Academic Affairs Committee has been busy working on several initiatives. These include the Arabic minor, establishing a new minor in Arabic to reflect the growing emphasis on the Middle East and its importance. They've also been working on a new NCLEX prep course for nursing students to get that earlier in the year, so you're not doing that your second semester of your senior year. They'll also be working intensely on the advising initiative that I mentioned earlier, and also international education. That's the update on the Student Government Association side. Next is an update on student initiatives that we've been hearing about more and more this year, and that we need to focus on moving ahead next semester. We've become more exposed to a group that's formed on Facebook but has been gaining a lot of traction in the UVM community, and that's called the UVM Students for Fair Treatment in Burlington. This group is headed by Kamran Rosen, and you can find it by just Facebooking UVM Students for Fair Treatment in Burlington. If you don't know, in Burlington, living off campus, you may have a lot of parties, you may have friends over, but the system by which students or members of the community can get a noise violation is not designated. It's very deferential, and it's up to the discretion of police officers, and that's not right. What this group is advocating for is an empirical method of measuring how loud students are becoming and how loud a party is in a warning system, so students aren't targeted just because they like to have fun. We'll be working with them and the city of Burlington to make sure that this initiative goes forward, because we need to make sure that even though we may be guests in the UVM community, in the Burlington community, it is still our community, and we need to be treated fairly. So we'll be working together with Kamran and the UVM Students for Fair Treatment in Burlington moving ahead. The second initiative that's been raised to us is the fact that there are no gender-neutral bathrooms in the library. Now, we're actively working with the library on several other initiatives, but this is something that was raised to us by a student, Eliza Kelston, and we'll be focusing on that moving ahead, and we'll be giving that to the Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Environmental Ethics next semester. Finally, and this happened more recently, last week was the quarterly Board of Trustees meetings, and at the public comment section, a student group came and advocating that the UVM divest from fossil fuels. Now, if you don't know, our endowment funds a little bit of financial aid, and our endowment or our investments that UVM has made produces some money that goes into the general fund of the budget. To align those investments with the University of Vermont's mission and vision, these students are advocating that we divest from fossil fuels that are unsustainable and that are sponsored by companies that may not have the best practices. We need to be able to follow up with this group. We want to advocate for them and what they're working for, but we also have questions. We want to make sure that if we divest from these rather lucrative companies, that our tuition doesn't go up, that it doesn't mess up the general fund of the budget. Now, our endowment actually funds a very small portion of our financial aid, of the general fund, so these students are in luck. but it's going to take a lot more than just a quick visit to a Board of Trustees meeting in order for the University of Vermont to divest from these fossil fuels, and we'll need to be working with them. The Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Environmental Ethics will soon be in touch with this group, and again, they'll be working on it next semester. Finally, in closing, we're going to need to be working not only with other students and student groups on campus, but with everybody, with faculty, with staff, with the administration, with the Board of Trustees, with the Vermont State Legislature, and the UVM community at large. The challenges to UVM students and to having a successful state of the university, they're not unknown. But what we need to do to tackle them, we need two things. We need to be clear about what we want, and we need to collaborate together. Those two things, clarity and collaboration, will be the only two requirements to make sure that these priorities and that every priority and concern that you have as students move forward. That's our job as a student government association. If you didn't know, we are a recognized governance body by the Board of Trustees, meaning we are legally the only people who can speak on behalf of every University of Vermont undergraduate student. We may not be doing the best job, but we're doing as best as we can. And we want your recommendations, your input, because that's the only way we actually continue to have a job and to have a role on campus. We want to welcome to the UVM community new leadership in fraternity and sorority life. We want to welcome the fact that the Cynic, our school newspaper, recently won its second Pacemaker Award in as many years, this time for its online edition. Last year they won the award for their print edition. Those two things are amazing because at the University of Vermont, we have over 170 clubs. That's great that the Student Government Association oversees, but we also have a participation rate of over 70%. That means over 70% of UVM students are involved in some type of activity or program on campus that's sponsored by SGA. And that's a great success story. But we have a lot to work on in terms of academics, in terms of affordability for you, and in terms of ensuring that you have a successful graduation and career after you leave the University of Vermont. That's what we work on. Finally, I'd like to just say that it's been a pleasure serving for half a year as your University of Vermont Student Government Association and Student Body President. I've been exposed to a number of amazing students, amazing student clubs, and I've been very, very humbled by the amount of students, faculty, staff, administration at this university who want to help and who want to help students. We'll be working with those students. We'll be working with those faculty and with everybody else at this university to make your experience here just a little bit better. But in the meantime, tell us what you want. Tell us what you don't want. That's our job, to listen to you and to act on your behalf. So as we go into the final season, please be healthy, be responsible, and remember to take some time for yourself. And thank you very much.